Weird Science
is the revolution.
Ultimate Spider-Man number 2, and it is written by Jonathan Hickman with art by Marco Checchetto, colors by Matthew Wilson, letters by VC's Corey Petit. If people were upset that there was no Spider-Man in the first one, well, we get Spider-Man here. He actually does put on the suit. It looks more like the black symbiote suit, the way that it's set up here, which is crazy. But you also, we talked about it, where how is it going to play out? He's older now. He's got to learn how to do it. It's okay.
Yeah, he's learning.
He's quippy. He's learning, and he's a little naive with the villains. He doesn't really understand, the back and forth and what he should and shouldn't trust. But he's going around. He's learning. I do like at the page 2 where you see him first, and it says February. A little time is gone. But as he's swinging, it looks like he's like way overusing webs. Like he isn't used to it yet, and there's just webs everywhere in that first deal, but it looks cool.
Yeah, because if it's a symbiote suit, he's not actually making the webs himself.
Yeah, so and he's just they're all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's actually a picture we see in the first bit, because it pulls out, and you do have May, his daughter, and you have Richard, his son. They're eating breakfast, it looks like, and you have May's like she's scared of the Spider-Man. And you would be. I mean, he looks pretty scary. And they're talking if he's real, if it's Photoshop. And it's funny that my wife, like, she'll just run into the room random times where she'll be like, oh my God, you got to see this picture. I just saw, so-and-so riding on 2 sharks getting attacked by a brontosaurus. And I'm like, really? Like, you don't think that's she was behind the curve of the AI, like realizing how good it could be. But you have Richards there like, it's made up. It's Photoshop. It's not real. And then Peter kind of like listening in, but he doesn't realize, because it's like he thinks he's being sly. Like, oh, well, do you think it's real? Man, yeah, remember when your brother didn't think that unicorns were real? And she's like, but they are. And he's like, well, there you go. Spider-Man is real. And then she goes, but he's scary. Okay, let's pretend he's not real. It throws him off, though. But I thought that's kind of a fun little deal.
Yeah.
And we'll see. May actually finds out, which is crazy. But yeah, she's got to stop drawing pictures, though. But you have this, and you have Mary Jane. She's got to go off to work, all these things. She just is in and out in this issue. She's not doing much.
Yeah, she's busy.
Yeah, so she's going to go off and be busy. They have a babysitter coming. Peter's going to go out, and she says at the last spot, are you working out? He's like, look it. And he is. We know this. Plus, the strength and stuff that you would get from just being, in the symbiote suit. All
it's weird, too, because I felt like at the end of the last issue, or when he decided to be Spider-Man, she kind of like wink, wink, knew what was going on.
Yeah, I thought that she knew, too. It must have been something different that she thought. But yeah, the whole spider deal, and now look at him. When he's in the suit, he is ripped. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, and you see him, he's picking up buses, he's doing his things. He's actually having a lot of problems stopping. It's like when you first start roller skating or ice skating or even like skateboarding, the stopping is the worst. And he goes into a water tower.
Yeah, he's crashing into those water towers. Can you imagine the damage that would cause, all that water falling on you?
I get that you even have Marco Checchetto, like that looks very much homage of the deal when he's in the sewer and the water's pouring on him. It's cool. The art looks really good. And so we're doing that, and I'm like, okay, well, what are we going to do? You have this whole play with Spider-Man. Oh, we're going to go to the Russian-Turkish baths, are we? I thought, okay, well, what are we doing? And this is where I heard a lot of people say the first issue was a lot of yakety yak. And I liked it. But this gets a little bit you go, and it's J. Jonah Jameson and Uncle Ben in the baths. They're in the steam baths, just talking about, things about, it starts with J. Jonah. It's that natural dialogue. It's kind of cool. Might go on a little too much, like I said, but J. Jonah's like, I haven't eaten or drank anything but coffee in the past. Do you think it's dangerous? Decades. And Uncle Ben's like, well, if I said it was, what are you going to listen? No, well, yeah, I don't think it's very good, or you should just keep doing it. It doesn't matter. And he's
like, a cup of coffee in the morning is not so bad. What's he?
Well, I think what he's saying is that it's like, that's all he's had. He's like, I haven't even eaten anything. I just drank coffee. I'm like, yeah, that could be bad. I love that he's like, no apple juice.
Yeah. So, what are you, a kid? You're not 5.
I think that people will get annoyed with this just because they want more info. We want, because we're in this new, newly made universe. But it's okay. You see how much friends they are. It sets up to me that one of them's dying very quickly. But yeah, they're talking about this whole, deal and the Spider-Man that has popped up and what's going on. Ben seems to be more on the case of what the Spider-Man is. That's more of a distraction. We see it later. It is also the picture that is this big to-do is by Peter. And Jay Jonah's like, well, why didn't he give it to us? And we're not really us yet. We haven't started. And it doesn't work for us. So it's that kind of funny play. And I like where Jay Jonah's like, he doesn't work for us. So he doesn't. He's like, yeah, well, with that attitude, it'll never work for us. It's classic Jay Jonah. Yep. But Jay Jonah, he's also, they're both going back and forth with distraction, what it is, what it isn't. And yeah, they're going to figure out what the story is. They're the ones who are trying to really uncover the big story because the Fisk stuff and all that. And it's weird where Uncle Ben does get like this inside info. And I swear, like, you're really trying to push him. Is it like pushing him to be the Goblin? Because like that you would think like, where would he get this info about, the attacks and stuff? But me and you were talking before. We don't think that it's him. We already said that armor wouldn't fit. He's a big dude. Plus he's older, but it's just that weird play that they're doing with it. But yeah, they're like, let's get to work. Hey, we got to figure out a name for the, our new endeavor. And they're going to go off and do that. So then we go back to Spidey and he's going around. He's flipping around. This reminds me, what it reminds me a lot of. And I said before that the whole setup reminds me of the Millerverse a bit. Really reminds me of the beginning of Kick-Ass. At the beginning of Kick-Ass, when he decides to get in that outfit, and then he's just hanging for months, like weeks, and he's like, yeah, I'm just doing that. And then he kind of stumbles into trouble, and that's what happens here. Spider-Man's just flinging around, and even like at points wondering if he should do it, but he sees this guy, and it's cool because it's the Shocker.
Yeah, like a different outfit.
Yeah, it's cool though. I like how Cheto does it. Because you still know it's the Shocker, but it's different. So you're like, okay, there he is. He's got, the same kind of deal. But like you said, in a different way. But he's going to break into this bank. And Peter has like a bit of the talk down when he comes. But it's funny because he doesn't know what to do. And he's fooled so easily by the Shocker.
So naive.
Oh, it's so. And he's like, hey, what's going on? You're trying to get in that bank. And he's like, yeah, but what are you supposed to be? I'm going in. I need the money. And hey, you know what? The Spider-Man's like, you shouldn't do that. He's like, oh, you know what? You ended up changing my mind. Thank you.
I'm going to go home.
I can just imagine how he's saying this, like so like over the top, like, oh, I didn't think of that. Thank you, Spider-Man. Oh my goodness gracious. And he's like, thank you. Can I shake your hand? You're like, don't do it, Peter. And he shocks him, and you know what's going to happen. So it's kind of funny. Peter gets shocked bad, too. He just gets knocked for a loop, gets thrown off this building, lands a bunch of machines. It's so crazy. But while that's going on, the Shocker just gets away. Peter's trying to figure out exactly what he's going to do. And he goes home, and he makes the huge mistake, though, of when he gets home. And he says, I can't believe I fell for that. Oh, God, he crawls into the window. But he's got to take that suit off. And he doesn't.
That's the thing. I'm wondering if he even really ever takes it off or it kind of just adapts and he's used to it by now.
But he should still adapt the mask off because people are going to walk in. And if Mary Jane doesn't know, then you really have to try.
There's something going on with that suit. I don't know what. It's not exactly like the Venom suit, but it's something different going on here.
And if you had the idea, like when he came back from Secret Wars and had the black suit, remember, he didn't want to take it off. Like it feels different, but we don't know. We'll have to see how it is.
Like he doesn't. Hickman's got something good going on.
He doesn't feel addicted to the suit yet, but maybe maybe you're going to play an idea because if you do go that route, there doesn't seem to be a Reed Richards to go and talk to him about it because that's who that whole play. So we'll see. But he's there eating ice cream. It is cute. When you see May and she's just standing there with her stuffed animals looking and like she is scared, but she's surprised. And all of a sudden this thing she's afraid of is in the house.
Yeah, it's in the house with her. And her dad is wearing the suit. It's crazy.
And she's like, and she sees, and then it's really well done the way that her eyes start welling up and she starts sniffling. And that's where people, oh boy. And then she's like, she sobs and he takes the deal off. It dissipates off and says, it's me. Don't yell. It's okay. It's me. You don't have to be afraid of it anymore. Are you okay? And she starts to kind of, come to the, she realizes it's Peter, but she still doesn't like the outfit. But I like where Peter, he's pretty manipulative. Like, hey, listen, we won't tell your mom or brother. This is our little secret.
Yeah,
so
super
we'll
sauce.
do that. Yeah. And she's like, okay. And he's like, so you're not afraid anymore? And she's like, well, you smell bad. And he's like, well, I wasn't a dumpster. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, it's also that costume is scary. I don't like it. And he says, well, we'll work on that later. And you get that, okay, yeah, we're going to get the, blue and red. But I thought it would, I didn't think it was going to be pushed as quick as it is in this, because with all of that going on, you did go off to Fisk. Fisk is, again, the Spider-Man is a distraction to everyone. And Fisk is kind of there, and he's being told by Monsieur Britton, Jamie, who is part of the higher-ups, and saying, you got to start keeping things in line here. You better get with it. And yeah, kind of threatening Fisk. And Fisk, I like where Fisk fights back, because you do have where all these people in control of the different areas, and then they're allowing things like Fisk. It's almost like, a fiefdom kind of thing. And says, yeah, you just keep pretending, play king and make sure you keep your house clean. And he's like, I'm not playing. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. But he's had a bunch of attacks on him. They're trying to kill him. So he has that going on. That's what I think they're threatening him about. Fisk has been warned. You got to get things in order. We don't need these distractions. We don't need this crazy. And Peter, being Spider-Man, that Tony, who's doing this, gave him he knows what he's doing. This is the distraction they need to bring the rest of the heroes out of the woodwork and to kind of form all that. And I think that's what the higher ups are aware of and want to try to stop. Again, very much like a Miller World stuff, like a Wanted. Yeah. But Spider-Man goes out again and runs into Shocker again. And he's like, oh, here we are again. I'm not going to be fooled by you. Shocker tries to get away and then says, you know what? Just doing this because my wife's sick and we don't have insurance. He falls for it again.
He gets fooled again.
Yeah, and he says, are you lying? And then Shocker's like, yeah. And they kind of go at it.
Shocks the crap out of him, yeah. And then he can fly, too, with his shockers. That's pretty cool. Like, he uses it to, like...
deal.
Yeah, it's totally different than...
It's like Iron Man's suit, kind of, with the deal. And so he ends up where...
Back in the dumpster.
Green Goblin is there watching it, just standing there looking. And if you go by the solicit of this issue, it says, the New York City introduced to their new hero, the Goblin. I'm like...
He very well could be. I mean, he's attacking Fisk. He's not
attacking
doing
Fisk. Yeah, I mean, that's not... That's think a different take. When somebody's attacking, they're in the bad, but there's bad things that I do believe, because of what we're doing, this is more of that conspiracy theory, who's in charge. Like, that's how the people in this universe would think. Somebody else is... And I think he's on the case, too. And
it's like a vigilantes type.
Seems like it'd be Harry, but we'll see. You'll see who it might be, and then that's the ending. And it's a quick read. That little bit in the steam room, it did...
That was 4 pages. I was counting it. That's a lot.
Yeah, it does put a little bit of the pacing off, but once you get to the stuff, it's fun. But I guess maybe Hickman, because you're doing all these things and juggling them, Peter being Spider-Man, he's just doing goofy things right now because he's just learning. It's fun, and I like seeing it, but maybe, the bigger conspiracy stuff with J. Jonah and Uncle Ben. But when Peter comes home and, at least he should dissipate everything but he's there and he has a glass of milk, and then May is already making pictures and things and should watch out. But how do you tell a little girl like that, like Ixnay on the Ixchers pay? But
yeah, it's supposed to be a secret.
Yeah, Dad, I drew a picture of your spider. I hope you like it. It's blue and red. So it's cool. I mean, that's a cool thing. And then, but that's the thing too, is it's almost like he's going to give it up. Like, man, I'm not really good at this. This kind of sucks. And then he sees that and it's like, maybe I'll go one more day.
Yeah, it's inspirational for him.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. But just think of it. You see the blue and the red, right? And then the kicker line at the end is, I think I'll give it one more day. And you're like, oh my God, what are you doing? He's like joking around with some things that actually make me giggle with how he's referencing things and all, and saying that while he's referencing his daughter, which is the whole play of, the deal. So I thought that was pretty clever. By the end, a little wink, wink. So what would you give this?
I'll give this one an 8. I liked it.
Yeah, I think I'm an 8 as well.
I give it an extra half a point or so because it was a quick read, and I do always enjoy that, and I want to see what happens next.
Weird science is the revolution.